You know, in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, the Bible said, and God said, let us make man in our own image and after our likeness. Let who? Let us make man in our own image and after our likeness. The question is, who was God talking to? Let us make man. Meaning there were some entities, there were some beings that were present when God said, let us make man. Meaning God was not talking to other men, because this was the plan to create man. So he said, let us make man in our own image and after our likeness. And I began to pray. I discovered when God said, let us make man, the first entity God was talking to was the dust. When God said, let us make man, he was talking to the dust. You dust, you earth, you will provide the dust to mold the man. When God said, let us make man, God was talking to the waters. For the water to come and mix the dust, so that what is being molded can take shape. When God said, let us make man in our image, God was talking to the sun to dry what was created. When God said, let us make man in our image, he was talking to the wind to bring the breath of God into that which was created. So what was God talking to? Creation. Because he already created everything before he created man. And God said, let there be light. There was light. And God said, let the earth appear. Let every tree begin to come. He created the firmaments. He separated the land from the waters. He created trees and animals. But at last, he created man. So he said, let us. He was talking to the things he already created for everyone to contribute. That is why we are dust. Because the dust, the earth, provided dust for us to be created. If you look at a human being, the water in your body is more than the blood in your body. I hope you are aware of that. The water in you is more than the blood. Why? Because it was water that was used to mold you as a dust. Let us. It was the sun that dried you. It was the wind that brought the breath of life into you. The wind. That is why in John chapter 9 verse 6, Jesus needed to spit on the ground to mold clay. Jesus went back to creation where God said, let us. So Jesus was recreating again. He went back to the beginning. He spat on the ground to make clay, anointed the eyes of the blind man. Because the spit that came, that is the water, that's the liquid. The dust he used, that is the eyes. So without water, you can't be standing here. That is why if the water in your body is reducing, you discover you can't even think well. Your brain will be skipping. You'll be dehydrated. Your lips will be dried. You can't even speak. There is nothing you can do once the water level is going down. Your brain can't even function well, because the water in you is even more than the blood. It was the water that was used to mold you. Because God said to the water, let us make man. God said to the dust, let us make man in our image. God said to the sun, let us make man in our image. He said to the wind, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. So we are like the dust. We are like the waters. We are like the sun. We are even the wind. As you are sitting here now, you are breathing. Because God said to the wind, let us make man in our own image and after our likeness. If you study your Bible, after Jesus was hung on the cross, he was killed. You know, the soldiers came to check if he died already. And the Bible said when they came, they discovered that Jesus was already dead. And they broke not his leg. They did not break his leg. For the other two guys that were hung beside him, they broke their legs. But that of Jesus, they did not break his leg. But they needed to confirm if he's actually dead. So one of the soldiers carried a spear and stabbed Jesus by the side. And what began to come out? Blood. The next thing that followed was water. He was on the cross. So without being told, the water and the blood was going straight to the dust of the earth. So that was where creation took place again. The blood and the water touched the dust. Then we became born again. We became created again. All things were passed away. All things became new. Celebrate Jesus. You are doing that. So as you are here now, you are not just ordinary water and sand. You are the water of Christ. You are the blood of Christ. Because since it touched the dust, you were created again. So as you are seated here now, you are not just an ordinary being, you are a replicant of Jesus. As you are seated here, this is Jesus sitting down, because you carry his blood. That is why you are not to have foundational problems. You are not to have ancestral problems, because this is no longer the blood of your father. This is the blood of your father called Jesus. Celebrate Jesus if you are doing that.